Welcome to my channel, States of History. Today, I'm going to share with you a story that will restore your faith in honor, respect, and the unbreakable bonds forged in the crucible of war. This is a story about a young girl, her grandfather, and the moment when mockery turned to reverence. So settle in, because what you're about to hear is a reminder that heroes walk among us, often in silence, carrying burdens we can never fully understand. The autumn sun filtered through the tall windows of Lincoln High School's auditorium, casting long shadows across the wooden floor where nearly 300 students had gathered for the annual Veterans Day assembly. The air hummed with restless energy as whispered conversations created a low buzz throughout the space. At the front, a makeshift stage had been set up, decorated with American flags and patriotic bunting. 17-year-old Maya Torres sat in the third row, her hands folded tightly in her lap, trying to ignore the snickering from the group of students behind her. Her heart hammered against her ribs, and she could feel the heat rising to her cheeks. She'd made a mistake, a terrible mistake, and now she was paying for it. It had started innocently enough during homeroom that morning. Mrs. Patterson had asked if anyone had family members who'd served in the military. Maya had raised her hand, pride swelling in her chest as she thought of her grandfather, the man who had taught her to fish, who made her laugh with his terrible jokes, who still woke up at 5 in the morning out of habit. "My grandfather was a Navy SEAL," she'd said, her voice clear and strong. "He served for over 20 years. He was part of SEAL Team 3. The reaction had been immediate. Tyler Morrison, the quarterback, had let out a loud, mocking laugh. "Yeah, right," he'd said. "Your grandpa, the old guy who picks you up sometimes in that beat-up truck. He can barely walk straight. No way he was a SEAL." His girlfriend, Brittany, had joined in. "My dad says everyone claims they were special forces these days. If he was really a SEAL, where are his medals? Where are his stories? Real heroes don't hide." Maya had felt her face burning as other students turned to look. She wanted to defend her grandfather, to explain that he never talked about his service because of the things he'd seen, the friends he'd lost. But the words had stuck in her throat. Now, in the auditorium, she could still hear Tyler and his friends behind her. "Can't believe she's still sticking to that story," Tyler whispered. "Probably made the whole thing up for attention. Sad, really." Maya blinked back tears, staring straight ahead at the empty stage. Her grandfather hadn't been able to come to the assembly. He'd had a doctor's appointment, though she'd seen the worry in her grandmother's eyes. She hadn't pushed. She knew he didn't like crowds anymore, didn't like the attention or the questions. Principal Hendricks took the stage, his voice booming through the microphone as he welcomed everyone and began his prepared speech about sacrifice and service. Maya tried to focus, but the words washed over her like water, unable to penetrate the fog of humiliation that surrounded her. She was so lost in her own misery that she almost didn't notice when the back doors of the auditorium opened. But she felt the change in the room, a sudden shift in energy that moved through the crowd like a wave. Students began turning in their seats, craning their necks to see what was happening. Maya turned too, and her breath caught in her throat. Men were filing into the auditorium. Not just any men, warriors, their presence commanding and unmistakable even in civilian clothes. They moved with a predator's grace, their bearing speaking of years of training and combat experience. Most were in their 50s and 60s, their hair gray or white, but their eyes were sharp, alert, missing nothing. On each chest was pinned the same insignia, the eagle and anchor and flintlock pistol of the Navy SEALs, glinting in the afternoon light. There were at least 20 of them, moving down the aisles with purpose, their footsteps silent despite their size. The whispering died away, replaced by odd silence. Even Principal Hendricks had stopped speaking. And then Maya saw him, her grandfather, Miguel Torres, walking at the front of the group. He looked different somehow, taller, despite the slight stoop age had given him. His eyes scanned the crowd until they found her, and something in his weathered face softened. He gave her the smallest nod, and she felt tears spring to her eyes. The SEALs arranged themselves at the front of the auditorium, forming a line that faced the student body. One of them, a tall man with ice blue eyes and a scar running down his left cheek, stepped forward to the microphone. Principal Hendricks yielded the stage without question. "Good afternoon," the man said, his voice carrying authority that made everyone sit up straighter. "My name is Command Master Chief Daniel O'Brien, United States Navy, retired. We got word that someone needed backup today." His eyes swept the room, lingering on Tyler. We're here because one of our brothers couldn't make it to his granddaughter's assembly alone, and in the teams, we never leave a man behind." He gestured to Miguel. "This is Chief Petty Officer Miguel Torres, retired. He served with SEAL Team 3 for over 2 decades. 3 tours in Vietnam, where he earned a Silver Star for valor. More missions in more countries than we're allowed to talk about." O'Brien's voice roughened with emotion. "He saved my life in Fallujah when I was a young operator who thought he was invincible. He pulled me out of a burning building." Another SEAL stepped forward, younger, maybe in his 40s. "Senior Chief Mark Russo. Chief Torres was my instructor at Bud S. He taught me that being a SEAL isn't about being the biggest or strongest, it's about heart. About never quitting, no matter how hard it gets. I wouldn't have made it through Hell Week without him." One by one, they shared their stories. The man Miguel had carried 6 miles through enemy territory with a bullet in his shoulder. The operator whose life he'd saved by spotting an IED. The young SEAL who'd been about to quit who Miguel had talked through the darkness at 2 in the morning. Maya watched her grandfather, saw him standing ramrod straight, his jaw tight with emotion. These warriors, these legends, were honoring him publicly in a way he never would have honored himself. Tears streamed down her face. Command Master Chief O'Brien spoke again. "Real heroes don't brag, they don't need to prove themselves to anyone. They carry their experiences quietly and bear the weight with dignity. Chief Torres is one of the finest men I've ever known." He looked directly at Maya, his stern face softening into a smile. "Young lady, you should be very proud of your grandfather. We all are." The SEALs moved then, forming a corridor, and they saluted, a crisp, precise military salute held with unwavering respect. Miguel returned it, his eyes bright with tears. The auditorium erupted. Students rose to their feet, applause thundering through the space. Maya saw Tyler Morrison, his face pale, clapping mechanically. Brittany looked like she wanted to disappear into her seat. Maya stood and pushed past the other students, running down the aisle to her grandfather. He caught her in his arms, holding her tight as she sobbed against his chest. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry they didn't. Believe me, Mija," he said softly, using his pet name for her. "You have nothing to be sorry for. I'm sorry I never told you more. I didn't talk about it because I didn't want you to see me as a warrior. I wanted you to just see me as your grandpa. I always knew," she said fiercely. "I always knew you were a hero." Later, after the SEALs had shared more stories and shaken hands with students and teachers, after Tyler had approached Maya with a shamefaced apology that she'd accepted with grace, Miguel and Maya sat together on the steps outside the auditorium. "How did they know to come?" she asked. Her grandfather smiled slightly. "I might have mentioned to Danny O'Brien that you were having some trouble. But that's the thing about the teams, we take care of our own, and our families are our own too." Maya leaned against his shoulder, feeling safe and protected and proud. Around them, students passed by, many pausing to thank her grandfather for his service, their eyes filled with new respect and understanding. "Grandpa," Maya said softly. "Yeah, Mija, thank you for being my hero. Not just because of what you did in the war, but because of who you are every day." Miguel wrapped his arm around her, pulling her close. "Thank you for being brave enough to be proud of me, even when others doubted. That took more courage than you know." As the sun set over Lincoln High School, casting everything in golden light, Maya understood something profound. Heroes aren't defined by the stories told about them, but by the quiet strength they carry, the lives they touch, and the love they give to those who matter most. She was her hero's granddaughter, and that was something no one could ever take away. If this story moved you, if it reminded you to honor the quiet heroes in your own life, please hit that like button. Drop a comment below sharing your own stories of veterans you've known, and subscribe to States of History for more incredible true tales of courage and honor. These stories matter. These people matter. Thank you for watching, and thank you for remembering.